Hello everyone, welcome back to AAS Publishing. I want to do a two-part series on the Astronomical Journal, AJ, and I want to cover in the first part a historical take from the beginning to about 2015 or so, and then in the second part of the video I want to cover from 2015 to the current epoch and why some of the changes that you may have noticed have occurred and what the impact of those changes have been. So AJ, let's start. The enthusiasm of astronomers and the liberality of friends of science in America have enabled me to commence the Astronomical Journal, all caps, with the full conviction that it will be permanently supported. Benjamin Apthrop Gould, AJ, Volume 1, 1849. And I'm going to keep coming back to this quote on various occasions, particularly with regard to the last point there, that the conviction that it will be permanently supported. So what was in Volume 1 of AJ? So most of the topics, and that's obviously a reprint, a modern take on what the cover article of AJ would look like. And the major topics of research in the first couple of volumes were solar system, celestial mechanics, big topic, and astrometry. And volume 1 contained 27 letters to the editor with some pretty sharp repartee. I'll come back to that in a second. There were 7 items that were referred to as notes. So interesting, the idea of research notes, as they're currently practiced by the AAS journals, have a history that go back at least to Volume 1 of AJ. And then there were reports on comets, asteroids, Saturn's rings, the upcoming solar eclipse of 1851, Neptune, which had been discovered just a few years earlier, latitudes and longitudes, which is interesting, and why. Jupiter, occultations, the motion of Sirius, planetary perturbations, Spica as a double star, and the report of a discovery of a new nebula. There were quite a few number of tables of data, but there were almost no diagrams or illustrations in these early articles. So let me go back to the commentary repartee that was allowed by the editor at the time. And one of them, which sticks in mind, was an article from Thomas Jefferson Jackson C. And in it he purported to have discovered a fundamental law that the temperature of a celestial object was proportional to 1 over the radius. And so he made some grand proclamations about the universality, the wide applicability of this law. And the article drew a number of heated commentaries from people like Alexander Chasen, from Simon Newcomb, and each one the editor, Gould, would allow C to reply. And so this went on for a couple of times. Until finally Gould called an end to it by allowing one last commentary from Dr. C, and it's immediately followed by an editorial note, which in the nicest phrasing possible effectively bans him from any further discussion of this topic, that it was over. It's just a remarkable set of exchanges, and I find the ban, the public announcing of a ban, to be interesting. Of course, we wouldn't do that these days. It's a little more quieter, but great reading through the historical record if you enjoy that. It's fun stuff. So the AJ went on, and the AJ was then discontinued in 1861, took a hiatus because of the Civil War in the United States, and it did not resume until well after the Civil War, 1886 or so, because Gould was forming the Argentine National Observatory in Cordoba. And so in 1886, it reboots, it starts again, and the image below is an article from John Stockwell in that 1886 edition. And as is a tradition in AJ, this is a home to celestial mechanics papers. It was a hot topic of the day, and it picked it up again in 1886. And so this article is on the inequalities of the moon's motion arising from the oblateness of the Earth. And so it went on. And so AJ went on. And so the American Astronomical Society acquired AJ in about October of 1941 with Dirk Brouwer, who was at the time also director of the Yale University Observatory, as the editor. And in 1949, the AJ was 100 years old, and so in celebration of that 100th birthday, Brouwer penned the paragraph shown here in blue. A tremendous broadening of the range of astronomical research has taken place since Gould's day, rather than the passing of active interest from one field to another. Okay? So the content of recent volumes proves the vitality of those branches of astronomy served by the Astronomical Journal, in italics, and encourages the hope that it will continue to realize the aim of its founder during its second century. And so harking back to Gould call that the AJ be permanently supported time going forward. Okay. So let me take a quick sip of my water here. Okay. 100th birthday. Onwards from 100th birthday. So Brouwer remained the editor until his passing in January of 1966. And there was an article published in August 1966 where Brouwer was the lead author. And it was basically an erratum concerning Brouwer's paper on Kirkwood gaps. And so the issue is whether some of the coefficients in an expression were integer or real. And I find this one kind of remarkable, not that it was published after his death, but the editorial associated with it right below the article there. And I'll just sort of read this for you. The error noted in this article was discovered by the junior author prior to the death of the senior author, and they intended to publish a joint note. The note was, in fact, written by the junior author after the death of the senior author. The editor knows from personal knowledge that the content agrees with the wish of the senior author, and accordingly, the joint authorship is allowed to stand. Ed. And we'll get to who the editor was here in a little bit. But yeah, published posthumously. So who have been the editors of the AJ over time? Well, again, it started off with Gould. There it is from the start, 1849, the hiatus, 1885, the AAS picking it up in 1941 with Brouwer, through all the way through 1966. And then we had a couple of duet, I guess I would call it, editorial ships. All the way up to about 1984, which is sort of when I became aware or cognizant of AJ. And Paul Hodge was the editor at the time, and there's an image of Paul. And that was followed by John Gallagher, 2005 to 2015, image of John there. And then currently in 2016 to the present, it's Ethan Wiśniak. And I will want to talk about in part 2 why that transition occurred, or circa 2015. So it was in 2015 that John Gallagher penned this editorial, and it was a key transition year for the AAS and the AJ. And I'll just read it here. The January 2016 of the AJ marks the start of a new era. Following a study of the future of scientific journals in the rapidly evolving field of electronic publication, the AAS is moving forward with substantial changes to the editorial framework of the AJ. Beginning in 2016, all the scientific AAS journals will be under a single chief editor. This post will initially be held by Dr. Ethan Wiśniak, currently the editor-in-chief of the APJ, and I will retire as editor-in-chief of AJ, as this position will no longer exist. And so the AJ has experienced a number of successful changes during the 166 years since it was founded. One milestone, as we've talked about, was the transfer to the journal in 1941 to the AAS. And the latest development is another step in the evolution of AJ in its second century, and one that I hope will keep it in good standing as an outstanding publication serving the international astronomical community. So I want to talk a little bit about what drove some of these changes and what changes have been made and what has been the impact of those changes since John penned this editorial in December 2015. So that'll do it on this one, and I'll see you on the next one for the modern era of the AJ. Thanks. Bye-bye.